Hi everyone, I'm Lillian Gray, South African fine artist and owner of the Lillian Gray Fine Arts School. Today's lesson is all about perspective drawing. I know that if some of you have attempted perspective drawing in the past, it can get super overwhelming, really confusing, or you might look at those images going, hell no. So today we are going to really simplify it, and I am going to break it down in the most simplest form. For being an artist, I really believe that you guys need to understand 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and if you feel like it and you're really confident with what you're doing, you can move on to 3-point perspective. But for this lesson, we are focusing on 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective. So perspective, when are we actually going to be using it? We are using it to create a sense of depth in our art. You might have a beautiful photo of a road vanishing into the distance, and you'd have a lot of telephone poles becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And those are all going towards a vanishing point. And how do we actually apply this, and how do we do it accurately? Okay, so welcome to hell. No, I'm joking. Perspective drawings don't have to be as complicated. I do understand if you're becoming an architect, they get really overwhelming and complicated, but we're going to keep it super simple so you guys can apply it to your art, notice instantly when something's wrong, or why stuff looks out of proportion, or why you can't seem to convey that sense of depth of field. So let us start with 1-point perspective. Right, the first thing you need to know is that we have got a horizon line. Okay, so often this would be the acronym HL, horizon line. You have got one vanishing point called the VP. All right, so if we are doing 1-point perspective, we have got one vanishing point. Okay, there's 3 important rules to remember with 1-point perspective. All points have to go to the vanishing point. All vertical lines have to be perpendicular to the horizon line. All horizontal lines have to be parallel to the horizontal line. This means you can't have lines that are intersecting with each other. They've got to be parallel, the same distance. It can't be a 30 degrees, 40, it's got to be 90 degrees, perpendicular. All right, so let's start. Let's do this the easy way. I'm going to be using various colors so you guys can just keep track of what I'm doing. I made a point. Okay, so I'm applying my first rule, which says all points need to go to the vanishing point. When I would like to draw a line, it has to be perpendicular to the horizon line, meaning I'm going to bring this straight down. Now, all lines consist out of 2 points, right? So I've introduced another point. That point has to go to the vanishing point. When I would like to draw a line going horizontal, it has to be parallel, same distance from my horizon line. I've introduced a new point. The point has to go to the vanishing point. Once again, if I want to go up straight, it has to be perpendicular. Introduced a new point. That point has to go to the vanishing point. I'm drawing a horizontal line, has to be parallel. Now, we are going to decide the width of this cube, right? And we can decide, once again, the rules apply. Perpendicular, straight down. Parallel, straight. And we now have our cube drawn in perspective. So now a lot of you are going, oh, heavens, hell no, this is too complicated. Slow down. I'm going to make it easy for you. Okay? So with 1 point perspective, your first exercise is literally just going to be the following. And this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be placing squares all around, and then we're going to apply the perspective rules. So this is the easy way to start. Okay, I have now drawn a lot of squares all around my picture frame. And when you introduce a line has 2 points, A and B, a square has got 4 points. So we have introduced a lot of new points into this drawing. So we have applied 2 of our rules so far. We've kept all our lines perpendicular. We've kept all our other lines horizontal, parallel. And now we need to apply the third rule, where each point goes to the vanishing point. Brought all 3 rules into practice, and we are now going to decide the width of these squares. We can make them wide, we can make them long, we can make them short, it doesn't matter, as long as we still follow the rules: perpendicular, horizontal, and then those points go to the vanishing point. I wanted to show you guys that you can also make your boxes hollow, so that you would be able to see this inner line here. And this would be the inner plane of your box. Okay, this is exercise number 1. I really encourage you to not just watch this YouTube video, but to actually do these things and to really apply it, because you might get stuck on something and you just need to rewind and watch again about how I approached this. This is exercise 1. For 1 point perspective, there is another exercise. I'd like you guys to now attempt to actually use this in a picture, and you guys are going to be drawing a city. Okay, you guys will still be using your pencils in your pencil kit. You won't be using pokies like I have. It is very important that when we draw, we always start with a very light pencil. All the lines, all the blue lines I've made, you guys are going to be drawing with a super light pencil. You will then progress to move on to an HB or maybe a 2B to draw your actual squares once you know exactly where they need to be placed. So if you're going to make all your lines going to your VP dark, you're going to get so confused, you're going to be completely lost in the maze. So don't do that. Keep it light, and only once you know exactly where the square has to be, you commit with a darker pencil. We are now going to enter the realm of 2 point perspective. Okay. We still have our horizon line. So some things haven't changed, but a lot of other things have in fact changed. We still have our horizon line. We're working with 2 point. It means we've got 2 vanishing points. Okay? Same rule, vanishing point has to be on your horizon line, can't be somewhere else. You can place it anywhere on this line, but it has to be on the horizon line. Now, the following rules apply. Instead of 3 rules, we're only going to have 2 rules. Okay, rule number 1. All points have to go to both VPs. When we draw a vertical line, it has to be perpendicular to the horizon line. The rule that falls away now is that we don't have parallel lines. With 2-point perspective, we don't have parallel lines. Okay, remember that. So we have to apply these two rules. Let's go and see how we are going to do that. So, when I introduce a point to my picture, every single point has to go to both VPs, no longer just one. That is rule number 1. Rule number 2, when we bring a line down, it has to be perpendicular, 90 degrees. And remember, every line has got 2 points, an A and a B. We've introduced a new point. We need to go back to rule number 1. And that point has to go to both vanishing points. Sticking to my rule of perpendicular, I can decide how wide this box has to be. And by doing so, I have introduced 2 new points. These 2 points are already going to this vanishing point, but they are not going to the second vanishing point. So you need to bring them to the second vanishing point. Here, I've introduced 2 new points. They are going to this vanishing point. They are not going to that vanishing point yet. And now we have a cube following 2-point perspective. Okay, so this is where it gets really tricky, and there's so many lines you can really go cockeyed. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep it very simple. In our first approach, we are literally just going to be drawing perpendicular lines all around our picture plane so we can see how we're going to apply them. I have now introduced perpendicular lines. Every line has got 2 dots. Remember, 2 points. So, following our rules, all dots have to go to both vanishing points. We have now connected every single new dot that we have introduced to both vanishing points. We are now going to keep applying our rule of perpendicularness, and we are going to decide how wide our squares need to be. Once we have done that, we have introduced 2 new points to our picture. And remember, those points both have to go to the vanishing point. This one's already going to this one, but it's not going there. This one is going there, but not to this one. And there we have our cube. Okay, so I'm now just going to keep going, and I'm going to complete all of these. Applied quite a lot of cubes to 2-point perspective. Okay, so how can you guys use this in your art? Your next exercise for 2-point perspective is to draw a lot of birdhouses. All right, I'll post this this image in the blog, and you guys can download all the notes from our blog. But this is our next exercise, and you're actually going to now attempt to draw birdhouses that uses 2-point perspective. You guys are often going to use this when drawing a house. Maybe you've got a house sitting in a landscape, or you're drawing a wine farm with a beautiful Cape Dutch gable. You have to use 2-point perspective to get the placement of that house correctly, and to really see how points works and how lines go towards the vanishing point. For exercise 2 in 2-point perspective, I'd like you guys to attempt drawing these bird boxes. Okay, so those of you that feel really confident with 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective, and you're not too confused, you can go and continue on to 3-point perspective. I really feel that the most important thing for an artist is 1-point perspective and 2-point perspective, and here's just a little sneak view of 3-point perspective. Same rules apply as 2-point perspective. However, now we've got a third vanishing point, where the third vanishing point is placed up in the sky. This is to show a low angle view. Remember my story about the superhero feeling overwhelmed, maybe Godzilla, or maybe King Kong climbed up the skyscraper with his girlfriend, and we want to show how that's also now vanishing into the sky. So it's trying to depict a low angle. Okay guys, so that is perspective drawing. Remember, keep it simple, stick to the rules, start light, very light lines, and then progress to the dark lines once you are sure. Don't get confused. If you just stick to the rules, you won't get confused, and you'll know which line to follow. This is Lillian Gray, South African fine artist. I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson, and please subscribe and stay tuned for our next drawing lesson.